Are you ready to make history today and have a little fun? Welcome to the inaugural Vainglory Premier League Preseasonal Invitation.
What does it take to mold a champion? Shape your destiny? Hone your craft? In mobile esports, it doesn't get any bigger than this. This is Vainglory, where you master powerful heroes, destroy the enemy Vain Crystal, and claim glory. 5-person teams are forged from across the globe. The best in the world begin their journey now. This season, elite teams attempt to survive a gauntlet of fierce competition from an onslaught of mobile superstars. They'll take their shots until a champion is crowned in their region. Today is where the molding begins, the preseason, where teams have the chance to establish their rhythm as a new 5-player team, try out strategies, and gel as a group in preparation for a historic run for the championship. The VPL Preseason Invitational begins now.
Welcome to beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, where we are ready to kick off the inaugural VPL Preseason Invitational. The players are ready. We are ready. So let's get things started. And of course, this town is ready. You cannot come to Las Vegas without running into an Elvis impersonator or 2, or 5, or 6. Hello and welcome. I'm Kate Elliott, and I'm joined today by 2 of the biggest names in Vainglory, Tasty Bacon and Flash X. Guys, how excited are we to kick off this competitive 5v5?
I am unbelievably excited. It has been 4 long months since we last had competitive Vainglory at the World Championship back in Singapore, and it is finally time to get things started again. 5v5 is here.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I know players especially have been waiting a very long period of time. Lots of very exciting roster changes. I'm ready to kind of see how everything plays out.
There are a lot of big things going on right now, and there are some really big stories coming out from this season, especially with the new 5v5 format. Guys, Flash, specifically, what is the biggest story coming out of Europe right now?
The biggest one has got to be the fact that Queso Esports has acquired the former SK roster. Hugely talented, very mechanically skilled roster. They consistently performed at the top of Europe as far as 3v3 goes. They've made some great additions in Tetno, JJ. They've brought back a lot of the same coaching staff. I'm very excited to see kind of how that plays out.
Yeah, and of course, we're going to get to see that roster right off the bat today.
Yeah, going through the Europe schedule for the day, Series 1, we have Team Queso against Clash. Probably the hottest matchup of the day. Series 2 is going to be Wolf Esports against Equinox, and then Series 3 is going to wrap up things.
Yeah, it's going to be a very exciting day for Europe, and I'm excited to see what that SK, or the former SK roster, now Team Queso, is going to bring to the table, and of course, just what any of these teams are going to bring to the table. There's a lot of unknowns, especially in Europe with some of those rosters.
That is very exciting coming out of Europe, but Bacon, what is going on in North America?
We actually have a very similar situation in North America where Tribe acquired the former roster of Cloud9, and this one is going to be a very big team because between these 2 rosters, they won all of the live events in the competitive Vainglory for last year. So that's definitely going to be one of the teams to beat. We'll get to see them later on, but we're also going to have TFSM versus Tilt Rehab, Tribe taking on Hammers Esports, and then we'll round out the day with Rogue taking on Nova. It's going to be an action-packed day for sure.
Yeah, very highly skilled teams. Definitely excited to see all those rosters compete.
I am so excited. So why don't we just get back to today's matchup between Team Queso and Clash. Who are the players to watch for the day? Tasty, why don't you start?
For me, I want to keep my eyes on Palmatoro from Team Queso. He was actually added to this roster very late, right before the roster lock. He came over and joined Team Queso, whereas the rest of the team, they've been practicing together. They've been able to have games together. Palmatoro may not have that same level of synergy, so that's why he's going to be my player to watch to see what he brings to the table and will he be able to gel and mesh with the rest of the squad.
Got to keep a very close eye on him. Hey, Flash, who do we got to keep an eye on from Clash?
From Clash, it has got to be Leon, definitely the star of Europe. Still hasn't been any live events, but his mechanics are out of this world. He consistently performs at a very high level. in multiple roles. I would not be surprised at all to see kind of his role change and develop as the season progresses. But we're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, everyone in Vainglory competitive knows the name Leon, and he has been able to take every single team he's been on. He's gotten them to the live championship, but as Flash mentioned, hasn't been able to attend any of those live championships himself. So this year could be a breakout year for him in 5v5.
That is absolutely thrilling. I can't wait to see what happens. But we do have to mention the elephant in the room here. Most of you are probably wondering, where's Joe Fenny, our beloved Munchables? Oh, look at him there. Just slacking off. He's not even at work. What is going on?
Taking in
For goodness sake.
Taking in some of the sights around Vegas, I see.
He's getting to do all the fun stuff. We know he's out in the sunshine.
Guess he felt like he was just going to take the day off, go do some tourism around Las Vegas.
He looks like he's having a good time. Maybe you can make some friends. Joe is with us in spirit, of course, and in cardboard, as you can see. Coming up later, we do have an update on Joe, so stay tuned for that. But right now, it's time for our very first 5v5 draft between Team Queso and Clash.
And this is what we've been waiting for, getting the competitive 5v5 underway. This is why we're here. This is what everyone has been waiting.
Anticipating.
A lot of players, as Flash mentioned, even more than 4 months. They have been waiting. If they didn't make it to the World Championship, it's been about 5-6 months for some of these guys, and some of these players are brand new onto the scene as well. So it is going to be really exciting, and we are getting things underway now.
Fantastic.
A couple bands already out on the board. Lyra from the side of Queso, Cruel from the side of Clash. Definitely very strong meta picks in this 5 versus 5 band format. We've gone through a little bit of a transition period where we are actually moving into a triple ban system. So it's a little bit different than what you typically have out of your normal ranked queue. But we're just going to have to see how the meta shakes up.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to see what's going on there. We'll hopefully get that sorted out for everyone. But, brand new system. There's bound to be a couple of hiccups here and there. But now we can get a better idea of what is being selected. You see Reza and Alpha. These two heroes are actually going to be incredibly popular, along with the Taka. And right there, you can see the Tony as well, the newest hero in Vainglory, going to be played in our very first game.
Tony has been an absolute monster on the Sovereign's Rise. He's super flexible in terms of how teams have been using him. I've seen him played as captain. I've seen him played out of the jungle. He can even make for a very strong top or bottom laner, primarily in that weapon power role. And of course, we've got to talk about the Bada Boom. I am super excited to see him making some plays.
Yeah, there is a huge playmaking abilities with Tony. And I like the fact that they're then grabbing the Batiste as well on Clash, just to have a little bit more crowd control, because if you can combo those together, you can completely decimate an opposing squad, split them up, and then isolate targets to take them down. Especially, if you can isolate the Alpha or isolate the Taka, they're both usually very slippery. You get them isolated, you take them out of the equation right off the bat, and you've got yourself a one-team fight.
Yeah, it's going to be really strong. Team Queso picking up the Fortress there. In my opinion, one of the single strongest heroes on the Sovereign's Rise in this 3.1 update. Whether his team-wide movement speed boost with his A ability, super strong, constantly allowing his entire team to maneuver around the map. And then Kestrel, off the back of that, is going to put out a ton of damage.
Yeah, that Fortress, not just your opinion on being one of the strongest heroes, he actually has one of the highest win rates in the game across all regions right now in 5v5. So Queso is definitely going to be very happy about getting that selection. And obviously, the Kestrel able to just delete targets if she's allowed. Samuel, another one of these big mid laners that we've been seeing a lot. Samuel, Vira, Celeste, Scarf have kind of been the top 4 choices for the mid lane. But again, we don't necessarily know exactly where these players are going to be going. There is no set meta for Vainglory 5v5. They could be swapping things up. We'll just have to wait and see.
Speaking about no set meta, one of the biggest surprises to me in 5 versus 5 is how successful a weapon Batiste has been. That is something that I've seen in a lot of scrims. A lot of teams have been using to great effect. Whether or not that's going to be a weapon Batiste today, we're going to have to wait and find out. But the amount of damage with his buffed perk is absolutely insane.
I feel like it almost certainly will be, because you already have Reza and Samuel, who are both almost certainly going to be crystal power. So it leaves open that weapon Batiste. I think it's looking at what they have already with the first 4 picks, it's very likely to be going that weapon power route. But we are on to the last 2 picks of the draft. Queso, what are they going to round about their composition with? We haven't really talked too much about what their composition is going to be able to do. They have those 2 sort of almost bruiser assassin type characters with the Alpha and the Taka. And then I don't really know how they're going to make that work with the rest of their composition, though.
Yeah, the great thing is they have 3 very strong, very tanky front lines. Whenever Fortress releases his Attack of the Pack, that's going to block a lot of the abilities. If Batiste goes Crystal Power, that's going to shut him down very heavily. It's going to do wonders against Samuel whenever he drops his Drifting Dark. And it looks like Clash is going to round things out with the Grumpcha, which is another super strong pick on the Sovereign's Rise.
Yeah, it's when you look at Clash, you can see a lot of AoE. There's a lot of AoE potential between the Tony, the Batiste, the Samuel. Even the Grumpjaw has a little bit of AoE, a lot of pick potential there, whereas Queso, they're not necessarily really a team fight-oriented composition in my mind. A lot of them is just really strong individual heroes. I feel like they're going to be looking for those one-on-one matchups early in the game.
Yeah. Wow, that was intense already. So now that the first draft is complete, what are your initial thoughts on how this game is going to go?
I mean, I'm thinking it looks like Queso, they're going to be looking for that early game advantages. They're going to be just looking to try and win the lane matchups and take that lead into the mid to late game, start forcing down objectives very early on. And if Clash can kind of withstand that early aggression, I feel like Clash is going to have an advantage in the late game.
Yeah, Clash just needs to make sure early on that they're not overextending, that they're positioning very well. They have to be wary of these assassin gank-heavy heroes. And as long as they can do that, and if they can scale long enough later on into the game, I think they're going to be sitting pretty happily.
So you need to be cautious, but brave. I'm looking forward to this. It is time very soon to begin our very first 5v5 competitive. Now, let me ask you guys, if you were going into this now, how would you be feeling? Are you nervous? Would you be more excited? Where would you be feeling?
I think a lot of the players are just more excited than anything.
They're just happy to get
back into playing competitive matches that have meaning again. Like, that's what so many of them on Twitter and out on social media have been talking about, is that they just can't wait to actually play matches that have, you know, a more of a purpose than just a practice does.
Yeah, exactly. This is the first opportunity for these players and these teams to prove that they've made great decisions in the offseason, that they've been working hard to kind of set the momentum and the tempo going forward as we work closer and closer to the start of the VPL officially.
Fantastic. I'm so excited to get into this. There are so many different heroes that I want to see play today. And I noticed that there were a couple there that got locked out. Do you want to talk about those guys and what we're missing out on this particular game?
Yeah, I mean, Kroll, I think, is one of these heroes that we're going to see banned every single game. I would be shocked if any team is allowed to play a Kroll. He has been one of just a dominant force. He just terrorizes the jungle early on, can make invasions, can go into the lanes, and just really swing things early and make it very difficult to recover from.
Yeah, definitely in your standard ranked queue, always banned players not having a lot of opportunity to play Kroll, like you said. The other one is Celeste. Celeste has been an absolute monster in the mid lane. A lot of these mid laners, very talented, super strong on her, and the fact that she can put out so much damage from that backline and with the additional range buffs that she got across the board, definitely making her dominant in the mid lane.
Yeah, I was actually a little bit surprised that she made it through to the second wave of bans and wasn't picked up right off the bat when she wasn't taken out in the first rotation. But obviously the teams wanted the priority on kind of those assassin-type heroes, with the Reza and the Alpha being the first 2 selections. So that's where the priority for these 2 teams clearly lied, was trying to get those assassin heroes under their belt so that they can make those early quick plays.
Yeah. Now, I do have one more question. Now, obviously, this is very different than the 3v3, it being a 5v5. That's a whole additional 2 players each side, guys. Math. But this is going to be far more chaotic than a 3v3, right? Are they going to have better communication skills to be able to communicate with each other of what their plan's going to be, or do you think it's going to be more chaotic and a little bit rambunctious?
I think teams are just going to grow and develop as the season goes. Definitely communication going to have much more impact in 5 versus 5 as it did compared to 3 versus 3. Are things going to be perfect right off the bat? Probably not, but I think that these teams are all hungry to win, and they're going to be learning and growing throughout this preseason.
Yeah, absolutely. We've heard of some teams having communication issues on 3v3. If you have 5 voices all talking at once, nothing is going to get done. So teams really need to solidify who their shot caller is.
Absolutely. Speaking of, it looks like we are ready to get into the very first 5v5 competitive match in the Vainglory Premier League preseasonal invitational.
All right, here we go on to Sovereign's Rise for the very first game of the preseason, and this is what everyone has been waiting for. Tasty Bacon here, going to be calling the action. Alongside me will be Dragonborn for today as we get underway. And we see right off the bat a little bit of a skirmish here going for those as the buffs start spawning. You see these invasion attempts, and right off the bat already almost getting first blood. Leon, got to be careful there.
Absolutely. Great to have you here, Tasty. Great to be here as well. As we do see, like, just 1 minute in, we'd like to see a little bit of action between these two teams. I always, at least when I get into these games, you got to contest the vision early and try to contest some farm if you want to be a little aggressive, and it looks like that's exactly what Queso is doing.
They're definitely looking for some opportunities, but in the end, it looks like everything will kind of settle down a little bit. Both teams kind of stick back to their side, but now we get to look at where these teams are going to be going, where they're going to be positioning everyone, and you can see already a 2-on-2 matchup here. Queso and Clash, Leon and I'm the Doom going to be pairing up together in the mid lane, and that's something that we've started to see from a lot of these 5v5 teams, is that they put the carry mage and the captain in the mid lane just to try and harass each other and try and get that advantage from the lane that can roam easily to the two sides.
Absolutely, the mid's so important to make sure that you secure. You don't want to lose any of your matchups, but especially if you have like a very squishy hero in the mid. You see both Samuel and Varia, they need to make sure they farm up, get to that point, not get behind. So having that support there, the captain there. I like to see Leon on the Tony. That's going to be exciting to see, Tasty, how he plays that up. We already saw him using his taunt, trying to get that action, trying to bring the fight towards him.
Yeah, I'm actually super excited that we are getting a Tony in our very first game. That was one of my questions, was when we were going to see the Tony, and right off the bat, Leon going to bring him out. It'll be interesting to see where the build path kind of goes for him. I'm a little bit surprised that Leon is actually playing in the captain role for the side of Clash, because we know him as such a strong carry, such a dominant force. But to see him transition to this captain role, we're going to see a lot of players actually swapping roles and playing in a role that we're not accustomed to them seeing. Paulo Toro, for instance, playing in the lane when he made a name for himself as a jungler.
No, absolutely. Of course, a lot of these players had to switch positions as they made the transition to 5v5, and I'm excited to see how they do it right now here on the Rise. As we do see some skirmishing going up in the jungle, moving in. I mean, this Varia, I love to see PRZ stay with Techno. You want to make sure that Varia gets fed, because late game, Varia is a monster to deal with. She is so strong.
Yeah, and the nice thing about Varia is you can there's two alternate build paths you can go for her. One is just focusing on the burst, whereas the other one is more about the sustained damage, the basic attack damage. And based on the fact that he's maximizing the B first, I feel like it's going to be the more sustained basic attack damage build that we'll get to see out of this Varia. But right now, Tyra's going in deep, but he gets stunned by the Kestrel, and I'm the Doom now going to be trying to move around, but they get the Treant stolen. That's going to help out a lot. 4-on-2, and first blood will be going to Team Queso.
Wow, nice job. Queso being the aggressors. They started off hot at the first minute, trying to go in there, get that vision, get that jungle farm, and getting a kill on the enemy side of the jungle, in fact. So looking to keep the pressure up. That's actually going to give a lot of space for Varia in the mid, but we are seeing Queso. They're looking to take away that crystal tree.
Nice stun on the PRC, and he is just deleted. Agni going to try and go in with this Grump Jaw, but not really going to find any damage on the Techno. They did, however, steal away the Crystal Orb, and that is something that can be really big in determining how this mid lane matchup goes. You want to get that Crystal buff onto your mid laner so that they have an advantage in the early game.
Yeah, but it didn't go on to I'm the Doom, so he's not going to have that instead going on the jungler. It's going to be keep that mid a little bit even, but I like how Queso's been pushing the mid just fine. They've been able to go up there and get the farm after they push that mid up.
And we'll also have to keep our eyes on, it's not going to be too crucial right now, but the vision game as we go a little bit further in, once the rotations start to become more and more frequent, where those scout cams are getting placed, making sure that you can spot your opponents coming into your jungle, trying to get up to these side lanes.
Absolutely.
So that you know what's happening. You can see right there, it's right off the bat, Palmatoro, he's going to see this rotation from Nettolet and Agony because of that scout cam, can get back to his turret safely.
Right, but Clash able to go through the entire enemy jungle right there, uncontested, unseen, until they rotate up to that top lane. Just because you don't have a lot of vision here early on.
Oh, Nettolet going to be in trouble. A great Fearsome Shade is going to keep everyone at bay and get them out safely. So nice job by Nettolet using that ultimate, making sure that the gank is not successful.
Yeah, there's a Tension Bow and a Storm Guard on Agony already. He's going to do a lot of damage here. It's just 5 minutes, so you got to be careful. You both have that Baptiste and you've got the Grumchaw when they rotate up there to the top like that. Yeah, even though there was 3 men from Queso up there, you really have to be careful contesting into that early game Grumchaw. Tension Bow does a lot of proc damage in the first few minutes of the game.
Yeah, that early burst is insane, and it's one of the great things about Grumchaw is he has that early damage with the Tension Bow into the Storm Guard. They already take down that first turret, but it also, he can scale really well into the late game because you just get a lot of cooldown and focus on just using that ultimate as frequently as you can. Nice taunt from Leon, gonna bring PRZ back a bit, get a couple of those Malice and Verdicts from I'm the Doom out, and you can see Clash already trying to group up. They know that Queso's, their win condition is to group up and start finding advantages in the lanes, so Clash is just countering that. They find Tyrus. Tyrus is gonna be in some trouble here. He uses that healing flask. There's gonna be the ultimate from Carl, and Tyrus, he's going to get dropped into the Infinite Reboot and taken down. And that's something else we have to talk about. Carol starting here for Clash. You know, last year he was a substitute all year long, so now getting onto a starting roster.
Absolutely. Nice job by Clash. I think we're going to see that a lot today, actually a lot throughout the entire preseason, is getting caught in the shop bushes. You've really, when you get a shop, you got to be quick. Hunter with the one shot. Doesn't look like that hit anybody, but you've got to be careful getting that vision, making sure you're not getting caught out in these bushes. That's the biggest thing that I've seen. You've got to be careful. Tyra's paying the price big time.
Yeah, you really got to keep your head on a swivel. The Ghost Wing getting captured by Clash, that's going to be a nice little advantage for them as well. You can see they're starting to build up about a 4,000 gold lead, and here comes the 5-man rotation, or 4-man, excuse me, rotation into the mid, taking a turret down very quick. And they're able to just destroy these turrets so fast. When you get grouped up, you can just melt through these objectives. And they're not stopping at one to say, you know what, no one's answering from Queso. We'll gladly take your second turret in the bottom lane.
Right, if you can push a lane like this uncontested, that's exactly what you're going to see multiple objectives take as we go through.
Yeah, but you can see Clash, or Queso, answering by instead sending multiple members to the top and mid, getting some turrets of their own in response. So a great job by Queso to not panic in that situation. You know, a lot of times you can see a team panic and just try and overcommit to answering that push, and instead they just said, you know what, we'll just keep pushing our own lanes. We took 2 turrets of our own. That's actually an even trade as far as the gold is concerned.
It is, and a nice job to avoid conflict when you have that Ghost Wing buff. So Clash, kind of wanting to have the engage, they are looking for a defense, and instead Queso avoids all of that. You know, they do get the mid though, so they are up an objective right now.
An interesting Samuel, but they do end up getting the kill on to the Alpha. So Tyrus, not having the greatest of times thus far on this Alpha, kind of getting caught out a couple of times here. Hopefully he can, focus a little bit more on sticking with his team, making sure he stays safe, because if you're getting caught out, you're creating these 5-on-4 then opportunities, especially when Clash has already shown that they are more than happy to just continuously rotate as a 5-man squad.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that develops. 2 objective lead, actually, so it is 7 turrets still remaining for Clash, as they did get that top one early on in the game. So I would say still pretty even. The gold lead, though, 5,000 in favor of Clash. How does that, I don't know if that really makes a huge deal right now, but it's something that if they can't come back, if Queso doesn't start to mitigate, they're going to have some problems in these team fights, especially when Clash groups up like that.
Yeah, I mean, a 5,000 gold lead isn't as impactful as it was in 3v3 when, you're essentially equating that to almost a 2,000 gold lead per player, whereas now it's only about 1,000 gold lead per player. But Clash, they are just so objective focused here. This is great to see. Just all they care about is these objectives. They're challenging Queso to come try and fight them, and Queso's just not willing to answer. They're already onto the Armories, Dragonborn.
Yeah, that's because Queso went all the way up into the bottom lane, and they left their Armories open. They left their Crystal open. They are recalling back.
Yeah, they already got 1 kill, though. It's a 5-on-4, but they're in the base. That's going to be Tyrus going extremely low. He's going to drop to that Infinite Reboot. They finally get the kill onto Leon, but that's just the captain. The damage dealers are still here for Clash. I'm the Doom still almost full health. He's going to be retreating now as Nettolet goes down, but 3 on 4 now for a couple of seconds more. It was a 2-for-1 trade, but look at how much Clash just got. This base is in shambles now.
It absolutely is. You know, kind of the idea of taking another objective when your enemy's pushing down is great, except when you're talking about the objective being your armory. You leave yourself so exposed. And it's just one armory. I mean, there's absolutely a case for Queso coming back into this match, but they need to be careful. They can't let that happen again. They have to contest now. They actually are going to have to get in front of Clash before that push.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. You know, we're going to be talking a lot over the course of this preseason and the regular season about wave management. That top lane is always going to be pushing, and now Clash looking for a fight. They get 1 kill very, very quickly, taking down the Varia. That is huge. PRC, he's looking like he might fall as well. They will let him go. That is very strange to me that they let them go. If they had found a big fight there, they could have pushed in, tried to take another armory down, but they allow Queso to escape. That is something we might come back later on in this game if Clash aren't careful.
Yeah, and they allow Palmatoro. You know, I thought they were going to split up and just chase Taka. Taka's so slippery, able to get out of there. Recalls in the bush. Grumpjaw by himself wasn't going to be able to take him down anyway, so the whole team just kind of dispersed at that point, and I think really missed an opportunity to close out the game. With 3 members left over, I still think this is going to be really tough for Queso.
I think they may have been worried that they wouldn't be able to close out the game because they were over on the bottom side of the map. They were near the Ghost Wing Pit, whereas obviously the top armory is the one that they have down, but they still get another turret out of this. We're still going to be waiting for Blackclaw to show up. It's going to be another 3 minutes before that big objective is there. I feel like Clash, they might be starting to kind of settle in. They'll take objectives where they can get them, but they're going to be more than happy if this game just goes out to the 15 minutes, get the Blackclaw and try and win then. But they have such a big lead right now. They can just try and force things like they're doing now.
They might. We're going to with that double proc going in.
And Tyra's going to be in a little bit of trouble, but that's the Varia ult doing so much work. The health bars are melting. There's multiple kills on each side. And you can see now that's going to be the Samuel going very low. I'm the Doom trying to make a play happen, but Queso has turned this team fight around. A huge Varia ult at the start of that fight set that one up.
Yeah, Varia, as we get later into the game, is going to start to get more powerful, and this is something that could really turn the tides for Queso. They needed this team fight. You saw grouping up Clash, kind of engaging, wanting to get that fight going on so they could close this game out, but it looks like the tides have turned.
I love what Techno JJ did with his build. You know, we were talking about the burst damage versus the sustained damage. He realized these fights are not going to last long enough. He's not going to survive long enough to get those Dragon's Eye stacks, so he went for the Shatter Glass, and that was why that burst damage up front from the Varia ult. He didn't have to ramp up. All the damage was front-loaded onto that team fight, and it got the members from Clash low enough, so great decision-making in the itemization.
Yeah, Clash has been liking to group up here in these team fights, and that's going to be something Varia can contest and counter right away. Clash is going to have to quickly adapt to that strategy. They're going to have to disperse a little bit earlier on, and they have the ability to do so. I mean, you've got an open lane on the top, completely free, Tasty. They could just, you know, split push that and get in there. Right now, as this game's getting later, this is giving Queso some room to breathe. Yeah,
absolutely has. And that team fight, you see how much it just did in terms of the gold lead. It is now only about a 2,000 to 3,000 gold disparity. So Queso, we said, you know, just losing your first armory, that doesn't knock you out of the game, but we're going to get another big team fight here. A great block with the Crucible on that Tony's taunt, but now the team fight is continuing to build. It's spreading out. Tyrus is going to get the kill, uses the ultimate. Can he find the kill on the Grumpjaw? Agony will drop. It is a 2-for-1 trade in favor of Queso thus far, but Techno JJ, he's going to be going down an even team fight. You still got to be kind of happy with that if you're Queso, though. You were still behind. Going even in a fight, that's still a win.
Absolutely. Techno's ult was not up yet. He couldn't use it. It was like 5 seconds. He wasn't able to use it. It will be up for the next fight. Clash, I think, doing a good job just recognizing that they had a small window to engage.
Tyra's on the run. He doesn't have that passive, but the rest of Queso is here. They're trying to turn this fight around. They're getting a lot of damage onto that Toilet, but it's just not enough as they find the kill onto Alpha. Now, still, this Taka is trying to do what he can. They're trying to just dance around, but he's going to go down. He's going to drop as well, but now here comes the Varia. The ultimate is going to be used. Not really to great effect there, unfortunately. This could be bad news for Queso.
This could be. They picking up an extra kill, and now they're not going to have that ultimate available when they get into the next fight, which is Clash really likes to just jump all in and, you know, group up.
Yep.
That's not going to be available. That's something that we have to keep an eye on. And
yeah, you can see the time on it, 60 seconds, so a full minute that Clash will have to, without worrying about that Varia ultimate. They can group up freely. They can try and force something at one of these two dragons. Both both Blackclaw and Ghostwing are now up. A lot of times you see a team go for the Ghostwing so that they have that buff around a Blackclaw fight. Sometimes you see a team just go straight for the Blackclaw. So it'll be interesting to see where Clash decides to try and go with this, because they are still the ones that are in control of this game. They still have the advantage, but things are getting more and more even as we go on.
Absolutely. This late game for Queso could be their ticket to get back into it, maybe even take down. They haven't been able to get any more objectives, though. A lot of this is just trying to get back into the game. And Clash, since they know they have a slight advantage, they're going
look
for
at this.
Ghostwing.
With the scout cam in the Ghostwing pit, they know that it's happening, so Clash, or Queso, they immediately go up to the Blackclaw. It's going to take a little while for Clash to get there, and Queso will get the Blackclaw unleashed, but now can they get out of this fight? They don't want to fight with this Ghostwing up, but it's going to happen anyway. There, everything goes. A couple of blocks, but Tyrus, he's dropping extremely low. So is Hundor. Hundor will be the first to fall. Carol goes down as well on the other side. Tyrus still somehow alive, will eventually get dropped. It is now a 4-on-2, and Clash are cleaning up. They're in the top lane. Palmador the only one left. A triple kill coming through for Net Toilette. This could very well be the game, as there is no armory down. The crystal is exposed, and Clash, with that team fight, will be able to take the very first game of the Vainglory Premier League preseason invitational.
Oh boy, again, another example, because Techno used that ultimate early on as a disengage, really not even as a strong fighting tactic. He didn't have it available. It was down by 2 seconds. Again, another fight where Clash was able to get in there and take advantage of Techno not having that up.
Yeah, a great game for both sides. Really a phenomenal attempt by Queso to come back. I loved what they did around that Blackclaw play. You know, once they spotted that Clash was going for the Ghostwing, they immediately made the decision to go after the Blackclaw and unleash Blackclaw. But unfortunately, they got caught up in the team fight immediately after and were not able to win that fight. But a great effort from Queso. They fell behind very hard early on in this one and managed to come back, managed to make it a close game. They had an opportunity there, but Clash going to be a little bit stronger here in the very first game.
Absolutely. So, Clash defeats Team Queso. Guys, what happened?
That was exciting stuff. It was the first game on the Sovereign's Rise that we have seen thus far in 2018. I talked about it during the draft. The weapon Baptiste was absolutely phenomenal. Hopefully we'll get into some of the game-winning plays here in a little bit, but yeah, it's great stuff by Clash. They had a very clear and decisive way of how they wanted to manage these objectives. They were consistently and constantly taking Ghostwings. They understood very well how to trade objectives. Whoever the shot caller was on that team definitely did a great job keeping them all together and all on the same line.
And the thing I loved the most, and Dragonborn and I talked about it a bit, was the recognition of what your opponent's win condition is and playing to counter that. They knew that Queso wanted to win early. They knew that Queso's composition needed to win this early game. And instead of just kind of playing defensively, they went on the aggressives. They were the ones that were making the plays that we expected to be coming out from Queso.
Yeah, Clash went in there pretty hard and pretty early. We actually have some highlights now to look at some of this fantastic play that happened. I was noticing they pushed in to the crystal very fast, and you were surprised actually at the speed they went in there.
Yeah, very surprising to see the objective focus come out. You know, I figured the laning phase would be a little bit longer, a little bit more period of just farming up minions, but Clash, they were having none of that. They just said, you know what, you're going to give us the opportunity, you're not going to answer our rotations, we'll gladly take these turrets.
Yeah, let's have a look at some of those highlights, shall we?
Yes, here's the first one right at about the 7-minute mark. Clash did not hesitate to go for this Ghostwing. No one on Queso was down. They knew that they could have been contested, but they knew that their comp at that stage of the game had the upper hand, and they just absolutely went for it. Once you get that Ghostwing buff, figuring out what your next step is going to be the hardest part, and they knew exactly what they wanted to do.
Yeah, they're very decisive gameplay. As you were mentioning, you know, the shot calling from Clash was just phenomenal all throughout. For the most part, there was one or two situations where it was a little bit questionable, but for the most part throughout this game, just very clean, very decisive. And again, instance like this where they have that Ghostwing buff, they say, you know what, you can come and try and fight us. We have an advantage. And if you don't try and fight us, we're just going to take these turrets anyway.
Yeah, and a huge shout out to Queso. They did a great job at the end of that, trading some turrets. They ended up taking one of Clash's turrets mid lane and the top lane. They realized and recognized that they couldn't really contest them with that Ghostwing buff, and they kind of just let it go.
Man, that was really intense. We have one more thing we need to cover really quickly. This is super important. For those of you still curious where Joe Fenny is, stay with us. We have an update on Munchables coming up. So, since we all missed Joe today, we've been having a little fun with Munchables around our studio and out and about.
Again, just taking in the sights once again. He's supposed to be here. He's supposed to be here with us. He's supposed to be helping us to call the action, helping us to move things along with the Vainglory Premier League Preseason Invitational. And instead, he's just out around Vegas. I had the opportunity to go and do that a couple days ago, thankfully, so I got that squared away. Otherwise, maybe I would have been out there with him. If I had come in late, maybe I'd be out there with him as well. But
man, you are watching. You are watching the Vainglory Premier League Preseason Invitational from Las Vegas. That first match was brutal. Can't wait to see what comes up next for our second 5v5 of the day. Now, we have some players to watch in this game. Yep. Guys, do you want to tell us a little bit about who's coming up?
Yeah, I mean, this is a matchup that I'm really looking forward to because there's a lot of unknowns in this matchup. It's Wolves taking on Equinox.
Yeah.
And so as we get into the players to watch, they may not be the most recognizable names to those of you watching at home. So there's going to be a lot to really keep your eyes on. But for me personally, I'm going to be taking an eye on Kigaza from Wolves Esports. He was one of these guys that he was an analyst prior for Fnatic last season, and now he's had a team in the Challengers previously in the VGL. So it's definitely one of these guys that knows a lot about the game, and now it's going to be, can he execute at the top level?
And it looks like we are ready to go into the draft. Let's see what we've got coming up for this particular match.
It's going to be definitely, like I said, a very interesting matchup.
Extremely.
Kigaza, we were looking at these rosters when they were announced, and Flash and I both, we know a lot of the more North American players. We know a good number of the European players, but some of these teams, we're looking at them like, who is this? We even messaged some of the other casters, Excoundrel and Dowsy. They'll be with us next week, I believe, to be able to help call the action for us. But they have much more of a pulse on the European scene, so they knew some of the guys out there. So they kind of helped us out with being able to recognize who we need to keep our eyes on and things like that. But it's a lot of unknowns coming into this matchup.
Yeah, Equinox definitely one of the newer teams to this VPL. A lot of those names are going to be new for a lot of people. For them, though, that's a huge opportunity for them to be able to prove themselves and really show that they deserve to be competing along some of these other star-studded rosters. But draft is underway. A couple of the bans and picks already out on the board. A lot of the same things we're seeing from Game 1 in the bans and picks. However, as Bacon mentioned during the first draft, we did not expect to see a Cruel make it through that first ban phase.
I'm very surprised, especially I'm really surprised to see it in Europe, especially because even in 3v3, Kroll was like one of the dominant picks for Europe all throughout 3v3. And now in 5v5, I mean, obviously we knew it was going to be a priority, but I'm very surprised to see it get picked up here, especially with Equinox banning away the Lyra. The captain focus is something that we haven't seen too much.
Yeah, Equinox composition already is looking super, super strong. Celeste, in my opinion, the single strongest mid laner. Kroll, in my opinion, the single strongest jungler. Wolves are going to have to figure out how they want to answer this. That being said, they do have the Reza on the table. So if Reza is able to kind of maneuver himself past those front lines, dive onto Celeste in the back, perhaps he's just going to be able to blow her up.
Yeah, I'd like to see Wolves go for something that either can build into a Frostburn or go into the Shiver Steel. So you need to have the slows in your composition so that you can prevent that Kroll from just running wild on your team. If you can slow him down, it makes life very difficult for a Kroll as you get into the mid to late games. But obviously with 5v5, there's a lot of brushes available for Kroll to get his heroic perk. That's one of the things that makes him so strong on the Sovereign's Rise, is that there's just a lot of opportunities for him to get that movement speed increase.
Yeah, he's constantly able to use his Shadow's Empowerment, get on to whatever the squishy enemies are on the enemy team. It's going to be Kestrel in this case. If Krul's on point with his block mechanics, he's going to be able to go right through some of her active camos, and she's going to be in big trouble. Wolves picking up the Fortress as well. We saw Fortress put in a lot of work in the last game. We saw a little bit of a turnaround there from the side of Team K, so they had one really good team fight that I think Fortress was a big part of. I don't know if he's necessarily going to have the same impact because there's not as much to body block in this matchup.
There's not as much to body block, and there's a lot of AoE. So those Wolves, the Fortress Wolves can be taken out very, very quickly. But, I mean, it is Wolves esports, so it makes sense they want the Fortress. You know, gotta almost like their mascot maybe, perhaps. We'll see. But the Kestrel, I'm going to be very curious to see what build path the Kestrel goes. I would like to see a weapon Kestrel in this situation, just because that can really deal with a Catherine and a Krull very well. You know, being able to pop that active camo at any time really is just incredibly useful. But the other thing I want to talk about is we have the Fortress and the Tony on the same team this time. We saw the Captain Tony last game, but with Fortress there, I feel like this is very likely to be more of the carry-oriented Tony.
Exactly, and to that extent, it could also be a toss-up. We might even be able to see the carry Jungle Fortress, well, like we saw in the first game. But yeah, definitely a good take on things. However, Equinox Esports has one of the deadliest combos in the game in Catherine and Baptiste. If Wolves are not blocking the silence coming out of Catherine, they are almost definitely going to be feared by Baptiste, and that's something that they're really going to have to watch out for.
Yeah, not everything translated perfectly from 3v3 to 5v5, but that is one of the few things that absolutely made the transition. They are going to get the Varia as the final pick for Wolves, so they actually have a really pretty good team fighting composition, I feel, on that side, as long as they can get the initiation, which Tony can certainly help with. Fortress can help with as well with the movement speed, but then an Arden coming out on the side of Equinox. Arden and Catherine on the same team.
Arden and Catherine and Krull. So the question is, which one of them is going to end up jungling? I would assume it's going to be the Krull.
Krull's jungling.
But that's going to put one of them as a carry in one of the lanes, which we never really saw in 3 versus 3. It's definitely viable.
I think everyone out there knows what my preference on that is going to be.
Yeah. I guess we're just going to have to see what happens. But now that we have our selections, Tasty, who is the player to watch on Equinox?
I think Equinox, one of the things we talked about when we were looking at these was which names stand out to us. And for me, it was Kieran on the side of Equinox. He was one of these players that, you know, if you follow Scoundrel and Dowsy, they've talked about complaining about having to go against Kieran in solo queue. He was a solo queue VG Gold player. So he got up to the top level all in solo queue. And that is just something that's really impressive. But now we get to see, will it translate to the team level?
Yeah, with his team being a little new, it's going to be really interesting to see if some of his veteran experience can kind of help guide them and show them the way.
This is going to be a very interesting play, especially with so many new players in here, and the fact that they are a brand new team, that communication is really going to have to come out. They're going to have to find a way to communicate succinctly and on time to get their plan across. How many seconds do you think they have to get a plan across to their teammates? If you make a decision and you need to get from A to B, that's your goal. How are you going to communicate that with your teammates quickly?
It needs to be almost instantaneous. When you decide who your shot caller is, that's every team should have done that by now. And then once your shot caller makes a decision, everyone needs to be on board. It's something that's been said across all esports, is that it is much better to have everyone following a bad decision than to have multiple people following different good decisions.
It's important to play as a team, and I think we're about to see some team play right now. Let's get over to that game.
Call all of the action.
Hey, Tasty. Yeah, we're back into the fold as well. I mean, this is going to be an exciting game as well. Wolves Esports, Equinox, these are teams we haven't gotten to see until now.
Yeah, and again, a lot of maybe unknown names. If you look at this roster, you see Wolves invading, taking that Treant, Chrysior, the Paprika, lots of names that you may not have seen. Simi, another one that, you know, maybe a little bit unknown. You look over on the side of Equinox, you've got Boar, you have Sifantu, Alex SS, and Viking. to go along with Kieran. It's, again, names that you may not recognize if you haven't been, you know, like, playing solo queue over on Europe, because even in VGL, like, these aren't names that we've been seeing through the Challenger. So very impressive to see that this squad has come together and are going to be looking to really make a name for themselves. This is what 5v5 is offering. It's new opportunities for everyone across Vainglory.
Absolutely. But a lot of names that are still pretty memorable here. Kigaza, again, he was on Fnatic previously. He's got, you know, a fair amount of professional play. He's, you know, we're going to be really looking at him. And he's on Tony. Again, another Tony pickup. Something that we've seen both series tonight.
And looking at what FlashX and I were talking about from Equinox, it does look like it will be the Catherine playing in the carry position with the Arden as a captain, much to my chagrin, unfortunately.
Weapon Catherine, you know what? I love Weapon Catherine because it's a carry position that you typically try to avoid Catherine. You try to avoid engaging her. She's got that Storm Guard that does reflection, but when you put her in a carry position, you can't avoid her. As you see just right now, Boar taking a lot of damage though, but looking to be the aggressor in this lane.
Yeah, once you get towards level 3, level 4, that's when Catherine can start winning these trades with the shield, but that is so much damage the Paprika just dealt out, and now here comes some more members of Wolves. Boar is in a lot of trouble and will be going down. First blood at 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
And he had to use his flask early on, right before that gank occurred, and the gank, of course, fantastic, coming in right at the end.
Yeah, and able to get that first blood is really big for the side of Wolves. Getting that little bit of extra gold bonus and getting into that matchup as well, making sure that you have that advantage, because Catherine's one of those heroes that, you know, it's very almost unpredictable how much damage she actually comes out. It's very much an instance where you don't think Catherine's going to be able to do a lot of damage. Then all of a sudden she gets a Storm Crown, she gets an Aftershock, and you're just melting.
Right, but she has to get some damage. She has to get ahead and not lose her lane matchup. If she gets too far behind Tasty, we've often seen that, you know, any of those like Ardens and Catherines and these unique roles, they struggle a little bit. But
another invasion happening there. Crazior is going to get the stun on Svantu, try and turn this around. Svantu's going to go low. Crazior just trying to bait them in with this Fortress, low health. But it looks like everyone will be backing away, and no one's going to go down there. So nice job by both teams recognizing that they were in a little bit of trouble, maybe a little bit deeper than they would have liked.
Absolutely, popping some flasks though to survive. We'll see early game, you know, when you save that flask, you can be a little bit aggressive and not go down. So a little bit of a risk reward there as you move in. Again, we're just seeing that Fortress in the mid lane with the Varia. So same kind of similar matchup as what we saw. That Varia mid game, very, very popular so far in 5v5. And I think we'll see across regions in both Europe and North America. These pros love to play it.
Yeah, the Varia, the Celeste, the Samuel, those are kind of the three premier mid laners. You generally want to get one of those three. If you can't, the Scarf is another option that is available, but typically you're going to see one of those first three heroes in the mid lane for either side.
Yeah, we'll see how Wolves handles it. You really don't want to get so far behind like we saw in the last series. You don't, because the Varia she's just going to do so much more damage late game. A great job, actually. That was Clash, able to close that game out quickly, basically negating the power that Varia was going to be able to bring to it. Here, I love seeing Celeste in the mid lane as well. Celeste really kind of like that safe laner. Does a lot of AoE damage, a lot of crowd control. So she could be very, very powerful in the late game and a good matchup against the Varia. Oh,
that's going to be a stun onto Simi. Simi has to use that dash to get out of dodge. Otherwise, may have been a kill going the way of Equinox, but will be able to be safe for now. And you know, you talked about how ending the game early against the Varia was so important. We got to see a glimpse of just how strong the Varia can be, but unfortunately, it was, you know, those ultimates just not being up at crucial moments. So it really is one of those big late game heroes. You need to wait for that late game. I really like what Equinox did there. They pushed in that mid wave. They knew that Simi had gone back, and then they rotated down, looked for an opportunity. They didn't find anything there, but still, the fact that they're rotating so quickly, now they might get a kill on DeBoer. He's going to get that flask healing underneath the turret, so we should be safe. But you know, the willingness to rotate just on a whim like that is what's really good to see, as there is a turret that gets destroyed by Krull up in the top lane.
Yeah, the rotation's been lower lane heavy on this side, so their upper lane's been exposed. Baptiste and Krull able to push pretty well. We see Ghost Wing has landed, so another objective that we'll see teams start to prioritize here very early.
Yeah, we saw in our first game, Clash put a lot of emphasis on that Ghost Wing. Right now on the bottom wave, Paprika going underneath the turret, going to use the Netherform detonation in order to save his life. As now it's going to be a little bit of dodging going on there for the side of Equinox, make sure they didn't fall to that Varia ultimate. But Boar is able to get back to base safely.
Yeah, he didn't have his flask. He had used it previously, so he would have been in big trouble if any more attacks had landed. He is able to get out there. So one objective going in favor of Equinox. Nice start here, and we're seeing that 1,000 gold lead. Not a substantial lead just yet. Catherine hasn't built any major offensive items, so she is going with that Storm Guard first, and we see that often. She might actually go with either a tension bow or an aftershock. Kind of can go different ways, but you typically will see it's almost like a utility damage coming out.
Oh, because they have the weapon, Batiste, and the Kroll, I would heavily expect it to be the aftershock as the choice for the Catherine here, just to keep your damage types as varied as possible. I do also want to look at Simi and his build path, because we talked about last game, the different build paths available to the Varia. Simi goes right for the Dragon's Eye, but he's actually, oh, what an ultimate from Celeste, from downtown all the way mid to bottom, finding a kill. And now it's going to be Aerosol in trouble as well. Great silence, and he's stuck in the gauntlet. That's 2 quick kills picked up by Equinox, and the fighting is now continuing in the mid lane as well. Simi going very low, having to use the healing flask, but nothing's going to come from the mid lane. But what a great turn of events for Equinox in the bottom.
Absolutely. That Shatterglass first put all of that damage, and that was a level 1 Solar Storm. So not even the most potent Solar Storm we're going to see in the game, and he deleted him. He was a little below half health. All of that got wiped away. Another kill going in here as they look to contest this Ghost Wing.
Yeah, Equinox able to find some advantages now, taking advantage of these sort of scaling build paths that have really been prioritized by Wolves. So this is a great opportunity for the next 3 to 4 minutes or so where Wolves are going to have a clear advantage. Simi's so close to going down, is going to be able to survive, but that turret is taking a lot of damage as well. So again, Equinox just finding these opportunities, taking advantage of these first tier 3 item power spikes.
Little taunt there, actually pulls in the Kroll. Little heads up there, thanks to the vision.
In a world of trouble. He's going to drop this Celeste, doing so much damage. A big stun. We'll find another kill. The Varia ultimate's not going to get a lot of work done. The turret's gone down, but a big active camo stun will help. Solar Storm rips through the team, does about a quarter of their health. Simi trying to make something happen now. He's got that Dragon's Eye, so if he gets that stacked up, he will have a lot of damage, but again, needs to get that stacked up before the damage is really there.
Yeah, and a bit of a risk because you've got that Shatterglass and some other big items on the side of Equinox. Kestrel building Shatterglass first. We saw those Glimmer shots coming out, doing a whole lot of damage as well. So both teams kind of balancing the burst damage with that sustained damage. You see the breaking point and the Serpent's, the Poison Shiv there on Luja. So that, again, a little bit of combination of sustain with burst across the team.
Yeah, the range that this Celeste can output damage from is just massive, and they're doing a great job right now taking advantage of that. 3 members up here in top. Equinox going to force down another turret. And, it took a couple more minutes than our first game, but it is starting to feel very similar to that first game where Clash just started focusing objectives and taking turret after turret after turret. We'll see if they continue to keep this pressure up. They're not quite rotating as a full 5-man, but this 3-man squad is enough. There's a big stun from Frel's Heart, and that's going to be another kill lined up and secured by Equinox.
Equinox turning it on. We saw as that top lane was going down, Equinox pushing on top. We did see a push from Wolves Esports, but the Catherine now is at a point where she's just too tanky, and you just can't push in on a lane on her very easily without taking a little bit of damage.
Equinox just pressuring these turrets so hard. That's going to be an answer attempt from the side of Wolves. Nice nether from detonation to get in, but Equinox just doesn't care. They don't care about this fight. All they want is the turret. They get their objective, and now will they be able to get out, though? They're going to lose 1, very likely going to lose 2, but they're trying to turn this around to Kigaza. Kigaza will get that barrier up and will survive, but 2 lives traded for an armory turret. I think Equinox is going to be A-okay with that.
It's not a bad trade. There's no objectives for them to take. Wolves aren't in a spot to kind of push anything. So because of that, absolutely you want to keep taking the objectives in your favor, even if you give up a kill.
And the great thing about what Equinox has been doing, and a difference from what we saw in game 1, they're not pushing as 5 onto these turrets, but the reason why they're only using 3 is because they're keeping 2 other people in those 2 other lanes and making sure that Wolves are not able to get anything in return. With Clash versus Queso, we saw Clash push down 2 turrets, but then they would lose turrets in other lanes. Whereas Equinox, they're only getting 1 turret at a time, but they are not losing anything for their efforts. So a really good job by Equinox of wave control and keeping those minions on the Wolves side of the map. Here comes a Varia ultimate to try and contest this Ghost Wing, but Equinox, they're just going to back off, wait for the Varia ultimate to go down, and now a big Solar Storm just rips through the Paprika.
On that stun.
They're going to continue chasing on through. Chrisior is going to be isolated a little bit. Active Camo is down. Will it get a big stun? It gets only Viking. He's going to immediately get healed up by a Fountain. They've already found one kill onto Tony. See Safantu chasing down a couple more. There's 3 kills now coming through for Equinox and losing nothing.
And they're going to be happy with that to be able to pick up this objective, Ghost Wing, and possibly another turret. Most of their lanes aren't pushed up though. So with the Ghost Wing, that's where you're probably going to see them push one of the lanes. You see Catherine starting that bot lane. That's likely going to be their first target. Might have to be careful. I don't think they're going to be able to contest it. This is a little close. No, they got it.
Yeah, no, it's very difficult for the Fortress to kind of jump over the wall there to try and make that steal. It's like there's one specific position on the Ghostwing pit where I think you can actually make that jump, but it's actually really difficult to get into that spot because you're also vulnerable there as well. But again, Equinox, they get the Ghost Wing, they immediately go to all 3 lanes, make sure they start pushing them up, and now Kigaza tries to throw out that ultimate, doesn't really get much done there. Great gauntlet, will land a couple of stuns, and it's already Kigaza is down. They're continuing to chase this fight. So much work is being done by Viking. He is just melting through the members of Wolves. They've got 3 kills. They're chasing a 4th. It's Chrisior doing everything he can to try and get away from this Celeste, but now you're going the wrong way, buddy. There's no sanctuary there. He's just trying to buy time. That's really all he's looking to do, but it's just not going to be able to do enough. They get another kill, and now the rest of the team, they've been pushing in these waves. They've been looking for these objectives. One armory starting to go down, mid turret starting to go down a bit as well, but they need to find something else. That took a lot of time, so great job by Wolves to kind of minimize damage, but they do lose another turret.
Yeah, they're going to lose a kill here, maybe 2. Luga actually on the top, still thinking about going through. Solar Storm's going to miss. That's the first Solar Storm we've seen miss, actually, this game.
Yeah, well, right. Actually, we're going to have a fight up there. Sfantu in some trouble. So is Luga. Luga going to be going extremely low, but he turns around and gets a kill in the process, making that a 1-for-1. If he eventually goes down, he's still alive, dodging everything.
He does
Luga with the fancy footwork, and now Equinox is here. Luga, you do not want to go back into this fight. Viking is now here, doesn't have the ultimate, but he has plenty of heliogenesis. Kigaza going to go in, knock Viking into the middle of the team. It's a great ultimate from Tony. They do finally get the kill on the Viking, but now it's getting turned back around. Safantu and Boar making work happen here. They get a double kill for this Krull, but again, Respawn starting to come through. I don't think they can really commit to too much more, but they really want to get this armory down. You can see it's getting very low. One Spectral Smite should be able to take it down. Alex SS is here as well. They get the first armory. Are they going to look for even more? This is starting to get greedy. They need to back away, and that looks like exactly what they're going to do.
Well, that almost 15,000 gold lead is anything short of impressive, and you know, a little greedy maybe, but I like the fact that they need to prioritize that.
It didn't cost them, so
it cost them nothing.
The greed worked there. It was great shot calling from Equinox, and that's what we've seen all game from them.
Right, Wolves in such a bad spot. Even when they started to get a push and look to get enough kill, they got caught out by just the whole team of Equinox coming and rotating up and finding them by surprise. Celeste, as soon as Celeste is in the fight, if you can't prioritize her, you are going to be taking so much damage in the fight. You really have, at this point, I think Wolves have to complete this engage if they can't take down Viking within the first minute of that fight.
Yeah, you need to rely on this Tony ultimate. It's kind of a tough spot for them to be in because you're like, if you're relying on just one ultimate connecting, if that gets blocked, if that gets reflex blocked, if he gets a gauntlet down from Alex SS in time, all of a sudden that ultimate doesn't work. Viking is completely safe. You have no way to get onto that backline other than diving in deep with a Fortress and a Reza, but then they're just going to get deleted in response. So this is a very, very tough spot for Wolves Esports to be in. Equinox, they're starting to capture up this Black Claw. If they get this without having a single turret left in that mid lane, this game is likely going to be over unless Wolves can pull out a miracle. The Ghostwing is getting, or Black Claw is getting very low. Varia ultimate's going to come down, gets a lot of damage. There's the Solar Storm. Great Tony ultimate will split the team, but the Black Claw was captured. Now the fight is on. Vikings already got himself 1 kill. He's got himself 2. Doesn't get the 3rd. That goes over to his teammates, but they're going to be getting 4.
Too much.
This is all over, Dragonborn, as they chase down this final kill. They have the vision there. They know exactly where this Kestrel is. There's no escape. An ace coming through with Black Claw pushing, and that will be Equinox taking a very decisive victory.
Great job. They really didn't lose at any point of the game, the early game and to the late game. Or I wouldn't even call that the late game, mid-game push here. The first
we're 16
Black Claw.
minutes in. This isn't exactly a late game situation. Equinox just really looking pretty dominant here in this matchup. So again, the great shot calling from them, as it's going to be getting the Black Claw finishing off the Vayne Crystal, but a huge lead that Equinox was able to build up early in this game. It took a couple minutes, took about 5 minutes before things really started to, take off. But once Viking got that Shatter Glass, it just absolute dominance from this Celeste pick.
Absolute annihilation. I was going to say dominance, and then you said it, so I'll say a different word. Annihilation. Absolutely crazy. What are your initial thoughts? Not your initial thoughts. What are your thoughts on the chaos we just saw that scrambled my brain? It was so chaotic.
Yeah, definitely a little bit different than the first game. This one was a little bit slower, a little bit more methodical, and it's still about the same time. A huge factor is going to be the draft. I think that they need to go back, focus on where things went wrong, because that was very, very heavily sided as far as draft goes.
Yeah, and you talk about the draft. You mentioned the Krull and the Celeste both going over to Equinox. The Krull pick, it didn't feel super impactful early on. Like, if you're just casually looking at it, it doesn't feel like, oh, Krull's not really doing a whole lot. But he was actually a massive factor, because Krull just stayed on his own in the top lane for the vast majority of this game. Never really had to worry about the Krull, and it allowed the entirety of Equinox just focus on mid and bottom lane.
Yeah, let's have a look at that Equinox highlight really quickly. We got up here. That was extremely harsh. Didn't really have an opportunity to come back from it.
Yeah, after they already had the Ghost Swing buff, that's definitely the next step, going for the Black Claw. Wolves forced to contest a little bit. Equinox very recognizing that's their opportunity. That was actually a great bada boom out of Tony. I think that Equinox was just so far ahead in their goal and in their objectives that it didn't really matter at that point. They end up cleaning up the rest of the team and then just going on and ending the game.
All right, we have been teasing Joe Fenny's whereabouts all day, and I've got to hand it to the guys because they finally found him. Take a listen. Brief second to look at our lovely faces.
We'll be getting that squared away here shortly. There we are.
Hey, I'm still in the UK, guys. I'm watching the stream. I'm here. I'm participating, but I'm just not in Vegas just yet.
Man, what's going on? Why aren't you here? We were all expecting you to be here.
Well, there's been a couple of little snafus with the visa stuff so far. It's been a little bit delayed, but it's all hunky-dory. We're just fixing things up and making sure that I can come over there legally so I don't get arrested on the border, because I'm not going to be able to do much Vainglory from American prisons. So we're just getting all of that resolved, and then I'm going to come over and join you guys in Las Vegas.
All right, man, we understand that. We'll definitely catch you later.
All right, have a great season, guys.
Once again, we are coming to you live from beautiful Las Vegas for the VPL Preseason Invitational. Welcome back. All right, so let's move on to our final match of the day. Salty Potatoes takes on Rising Lotus. What can we expect from our final European match of the day? Bacon.
I mean, first of all, one of the best names in Vainglory is Salty Potatoes, one of my favorite teams there. But I think we can definitely expect a lot more of this kind of early aggression. It seems to be what Europe has really picked up on with 5v5. All these teams have been looking for these early opportunities. It's a very high-risk, high-reward style, though, because as we've seen, if you don't get those early plays, you fall pretty far behind.
Yeah, and it's actually great to see Europe playing so aggressive, because that was never their comfort zone as far as 3 versus 3 goes. So I'll be really interested to see kind of how North America matches up compared to that early game aggression later on.
Absolutely. And going back to this particular match, Bacon, who do we need to look out for?
Well, I think this is another one of those ones where there's a lot of players that are a little bit unknown. There's still a few names that I think most people will recognize, but right off the bat, I think Keanu Nakoa with Rising Lotus. Rising Lotus is as an organization, is a team that you know, you may remember if you were around in the scene about a year ago, they kind of went away and then have come back. We're going to get a look at Sneaky stats there, but Sneaky obviously for Salty Potatoes. But it's, you know, that's going to be, I believe, your player to watch over on Salty Potatoes.
Yeah, Sneaky definitely much newer to the competitive scene. I believe he came around towards the end of 2017. But I think we can see big things out of him. He stepped into the spotlight for a little bit, went out of it for a little bit. But 5v5 is a new chance and a new opportunity for all these pro players to show their worth and prove that they deserve to be competing here at the top level.
Flash, who is your player to watch on Lotus?
Player to watch on Rising Lotus, definitely going to be Keanu Nakoa, an absolutely all-star captain. Has been around the scene for quite some time. He has kind of drifted.
Now we're showing Steve. Will they have Keanu Nakoa on the next screen is what we got to wonder, though.
Yeah. Time will tell. There he is. Looking good. But yeah, formerly on G2, definitely a great captain. Made some great plays at multiple live events last year. I think that he's going to do very well on this Rising Lotus roster.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for it because, you know, Keanu Nakoa, when Rising Lotus was first made, Keanu Nakoa was the captain of that team as well. So bringing back his old brand as they go into 5v5, I think it's really exciting to see, you know, some of the team names come back onto the scene and, you know, see what they can do with this second hurrah.
We have a lot going on today, and don't forget we have an exciting lineup of matches from North America coming up later today. We have Team Solomon takes on Tilt Rehab. Tribe will face off against Hammers Esports. And we'll be finishing the day with Rogue taking on Nova Esports. We're going to go straight over to the draft right now.
Yeah, those North American games going to be coming up a little bit later, but first we have to get to this final European matchup.
Yeah,
and
let's see this.
Again, this one's going to be exciting. Salty Potatoes against Rising Lotus. This is one of the games where the hero pool kind of comes into question. A lot of these players, you know, Sneaky especially, was kind of the hero pool was a question for them, even on 3v3. So now going into 5v5 with more bans, more picks to be made, you know, if you haven't expanded that hero pool, it can become even more targeted. But I want to point out that ban from Rising Lotus, that's one we haven't really seen too much.
Yeah, definitely interesting stuff. I would have to imagine that that is a targeted ban, probably a comfort pick for Salty Potatoes that Rising Lotus is very aware of, and one of them probably plays it extremely well. The Tony ban, I believe, is the first Tony ban we've had thus far. We've had Tony in both of the first two games. He has seemed really strong, unfortunately not coming out on top, but definitely very strong. And Salty Potatoes going to grab the Lyra, which has been banned in every match thus far.
The Kroll is also available right now if Rising Lotus decided to go for that. So, you know, picks that we weren't necessarily expecting to make it through are going to be making it through into this game. Obviously, the next wave of bans will take away a few more, but they want to prioritize the Celeste. I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, the Kroll, they have two picks, so you get both of them. This is, again, what we just saw out of Equinox. It worked amazingly well having this duo, so now we'll see if Rising Lotus can have a similar performance.
Yeah, the combination between Kroll and Celeste is absolutely insane. From Hell's Heart, followed up by a core collapse. It's a ton of crowd control on whatever target they choose. And it's so hard to get to a Celeste through a Kroll that's going to be very difficult. Wolves Esports tried to do it with the Reza in the series previously, were unsuccessful. This time, though, Salty Potatoes do have the Lyra, and she's going to be able to use that Arcane Passage, go directly on top of Celeste, allow Reza to save one of his gap-closing abilities so that if Celeste does try to reposition, he can continue to chase and hunt her down. Taking Taka out of the mix, I think, is a little bit interesting. That's typically another hero that you would probably want to try and put onto taking down a Celeste, but we'll kind of see how they shape up the rest of this draft.
Yeah, the Grump Draw ban makes a lot of sense. It's another one of those heroes that can, you know, if you're on the side of Rising Lotus, a lot of the times I would expect to see kind of more of a protect the carry composition when you have a Celeste and a Kroll. That's what we just saw out of Equinox. They had very much, it was about keeping the Celeste alive. So getting the Grump Draw out of the equation, that's one of those heroes that can dive onto the backline and target your carry regardless of what you have done for yourselves. So I like that ban decision. There's a Baptiste, another hero that can do a lot of work protecting your carry.
Absolutely. I said at the start of the day, Weapon Baptiste, we've seen played twice now.
Yep.
I would not be at all surprised to see it played again. This time, however, more likely than not, it is going to be played in the lane. And Salty Potatoes picking up the Kestrel, which is definitely another one of the powerhouse laners.
Yeah, and that's one of the kind of things that's really interesting about 5v5 is there's a lot of heroes that you think about and go, oh yeah, they're really good for 5v5. Oh yeah, they're really good for, and so there's so many strong picks that it really doesn't matter what gets banned away. You should still be able to draft yourself a strong composition. A lot of it then just becomes about the synergy around your team. You know, how well do the heroes you selected work together? Are you going for a poke comp? Are you going for a burst comp? Are you looking to protect your carry? Are you looking for a hard engage composition? You have to try and build these, a composition that's defined around a win condition. Whereas if you just go for individual heroes that are all strong individually, but you don't have a clear set win condition on your team, that's where you're still going to struggle regardless of who you got.
Absolutely. Whoever's in charge of draft needs to come in with a clear, concise, and focused game plan. And then it's all going to come down to execution. Are they consistently on the same page? Does everyone know how the game needs to be played in order to find and meet those win conditions? It's kind of a toss-up and kind of hard to say. Salted Potatoes, a little bit different than the previous game. Rather than trying to focus a composition that's dive-heavy on to the Celeste, it seems like they're trying to counter them with a little bit of range themselves. They have the Samuel, they have the Kestrel. If they go the CP Kestrel route, that's even more range on top of it, even more range than what Celeste has. So that could be a different way that they're trying to execute this composition. Only time will tell to see exactly how they make it.
Yeah, and Lyra Samuel is another one of those combos that kind of carried over really well from 3v3. Having that extra movement speed, you can stay in your Drifting Dark for a very long time while still having a lot of mobility within that area. So a very strong kiting composition for Salty Potatoes. Like you said, that could be their goal here. Just if you kite far enough away, Celeste doesn't have a movement speed increase. She doesn't have a gap closer. She's going to be relying on getting movement speed increases from the Arden to be able to keep up with a fight if it starts to drift away from them. So that could be the way Salted Potatoes look to deal with this. Rising Lotus, all of their eggs right now are in that Celeste carry basket. So if they move a fight away from Celeste, they could then just get far enough away, wait for their opportunity, and then just turn and re-engage.
Absolutely. And the thing is, the Salty Potatoes, with this extra range, they have the Lyra on top of it. So she's going to be able to continuously heal them, allow them to sustain through any of the heliogeneses that are coming out of the Celeste. And whenever she sees Quirrell trying to go in, she just drops the Bright Bulwark, prevents him from using his A, getting that barrier. And that could potentially be a huge problem for the side of Rising Lotus.
And there's going to be an Alpha as the final pick. Doesn't really fit with the kite away composition style, but it does give them a little bit of that early game strength, a little bit of that lane matchup. Because if you fall too far behind in the early game, it doesn't matter how well your team composition can fight. You're just going to be kiting all the way back to your fountain and then losing the game. So you have to have a little bit of that early game pressure. And again, we're going to be seeing the Catherine Arden combo come out, and Rising Lotus. Again, the one concern I have for this composition is a very strong composition, but it is all about the Celeste. And if Celeste doesn't get a big lead, they don't stand a chance.
Exactly. And similar to last game as well, it's not just the Catherine and the Arden. They still have the Baptiste with that as well. We saw a couple times in the last game lining up the Blast Tremor Fear combination. That's something that the side of Salty Potatoes is really going to have to watch out for. And if their Crucibles are not on point, if they're not blocking the Blast Tremors, they are going to lose these team fights.
Now that we have our selections, what's jumping out at you?
I mean, I think, again, first of all, the big Celeste carry.
Absolutely.
If you don't have that Celeste get online early, if you don't protect her from the start, it becomes a very difficult game. And on the side of Salty Potatoes, they need to recognize that. They need to put everything into stopping the Celeste, because if they can keep her down, they have an easy path to victory.
Reza and Alpha super strong at ganking, especially earlier on into the game. If they are able to pick up a bunch of kills on his Celeste, put her behind their own mid laner, that's going to allow them to scale much better into the late game, allow their ranged carries to come online so that they can combat the Celeste damage later on into the game.
Is there anything else that is there anything you're expecting to see from this particular matchup? Are you expecting a certain movement pattern or a specific strategy to come out here?
I think this is going to be very similar to the last game, where it's kind of not stagnant, but we're not going to be seeing a ton of all-in team fights until we start to get to those later levels. Once you get to level 6, level 8, those big power spikes, the first tier 3 items, that's when fights will start going off. But up until then, it's going to be both teams really just trying to focus on farming and getting as far ahead as they can for that moment.
Absolutely. And Flash, is there anything that you think the team should be careful of, that they should try and avoid?
I fully expect the side of Rising Lotus to invade early and often. They have a great level 1 team fighting composition in the Arden, the Batiste, the Catherine. It's a lot of crowd control very early on that if Salty Potatoes aren't very careful and very aware of their positioning at all times, they can get caught out very easily.
Yeah, and how are you feeling about the way the 5v5s have been going in comparison to the 3v3s? Just very quickly.
I think they've been going really well. Similar game time to 3 versus 3, which is something that I personally enjoy as a player very much. People had concerns it was going to go much longer, but people are able to figure it out and execute exactly how they need to.
Yeah, let's see if they can execute that plan right now. We are tossing over to the game. Let's see if they can get that done.
All right, we are on to Sovereign's Rise for game number 3, our final game for Europe. Of course, don't go anywhere after Europe is finished because we will still be having those 3 North American games coming up a little bit later. But right now, it is all about Salty Potatoes going head-to-head against Rising Lotus. Dragonborn once again back with me to get us underway.
Thank you, Tasty. Yeah, we're back on the rise, and already a little bit of a skirmish breaking out here. We see this, a lot of teams try to contest those first couple of creeps in the jungle. And you see right there, wow, first blood.
Very early first blood coming through, but the fight is not over. Sneaky, he's going to get the target, and he's going to be dropping as well. So 1 kill apiece does lead to a slight edge in terms of the kill gold to the side of Salty Potatoes, but you see Rising Lotus, they may not be done here. They're going to be looking to try and invade onto this Crystal Treant, see if they can get themselves that Crystal buff to start the game off. You see Aristocratic and Aeon going to be looking to try and defend. It will go over to the side of Rising Lotus, and it does go on to Solicitude as well, so that's going to be a nice little advantage as long as they can get out of here safely. You see Sneaky, he's joined this fight as well just to try and make sure that Rising Lotus gets out of this jungle, allows Salty Potatoes to clean up the rest of those monsters.
Yo, who said EU was a passive region? This team, these 2 teams specifically, both very aggressive. This is probably the most action we've seen in the first 2 minutes this week or today.
5v5 is a new game mode, and Europe has taken that to heart. There's a bit of a reset for everything. Europe has fully gone on board with this reset. They have a completely different play style from what we saw in 3v3. Keanu Nakoa, he's going to be in a world of trouble. So he gets caught out in the river, and that will be another kill for Salty Potatoes. 3-1 now in just the first 2.5 minutes.
It's a lot of kills, a lot of action. I think they're going to start to slow down here a little bit. We see the Kestrel down here at the bot, just looking at the farm. Up here, some recalls back as everyone starts to buy their first couple of items. And we'll see, it is going to be Joker's picking up the weapon items here.
Yeah, it looks like it. And again, I want to talk about the rosters a little bit. Some of the names you may recognize from both VGA and from the VGL. A couple of new names, but names like Cracks, Aristocratic, Esquire, they've been around the block a few times. So again, new opportunities for some of these players to come out and perform in VPL.
A lot of these guys actually in both these rosters are former 3v3 pros looking to make the transition to 5v5, and so far I love what I see. The Vision game, we haven't talked a lot about it, Tasty. It is absolutely imperative.
Cracks just getting deleted by the Kestrel. That's the thing you have to be worried about with a Kestrel. Early game, her damage is insane. But before we go really into the Vision, I do also want to touch on, as we get another little fight here around the mid lane, is, again, where people are kind of focusing their attention. We've seen so much focus on this bottom lane across all 3 games thus far. That really seems to be where teams are trying to get victories to be able to scale up into the late game.
A lot of pros have talked to me about just being comfortable in the bottom lane. Bottom mid's really that kind of harder. You got 2 lanes on top and bottom of you, so it's a little bit unique. Vision is completely new for 5v5, and no longer do we have mines that blow up when you walk over them. We have scout cams, and they grant vision. It's a bit of a vision war game inside of this other war game that's going on that you really have to focus on how teams manage it, making sure that they have that vision early, allows them to rotate and get some of this farm. You see right here.
Speaking of rotating, that's going to be a little bit of a skirmish over this crystal orb. It does go the way of Rising Lotus, and now they find themselves a kill as they take down Lyra very quickly. The Joker going to get dropped low as well, but Rising Lotus, they take away not only the treant, but now they're going to clear out as much of the jungle as they can as well, just looking to deny gold opportunities from their opponents.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this matchup in the mid lane here. Celeste versus the Samuel, those are those two premier laners for the mid, and they really have their own strengths and weaknesses. Bottom lane, more action. Kratz
going to be in some trouble. One shot is going to go a little wide, so nice job by Kratz to dodge that one out. And he's going to be able to stay alive, but again, the Joker constantly coming down, rotating through the jungle, and looking to make plays in that bottom lane in order to get this Kestrel ahead.
Absolutely. That mid lane matchup, though, is what I was talking about. Looking forward to see how that plays out. Both those laners, if played correctly, have very, very strong power spikes that they hit right about the same time. So excited to see this. Three-man rotation of the bot to get that turret. I think they might secure it. Catherine's down there to contest.
Yeah, but Krax hasn't really been,
doesn't
really have the defense to stick around. You know, after the last two skirmishes, got taken down so low so quickly. You can see Krax never really even wanted to defend it. It was trying to buy time for the rest of the team to rotate. But great job by Salty Potatoes spotting that rotation starting and immediately moving to counter it and answer and prevent anything from happening. And now it's a lot of damage getting done. And Mad Vagabond going to go a little low. Solicitude throws out the Solar Storm, doesn't find any damage. A one shot will tag Solicitude. Drop him down low. Krax has rotated up, but now the top lane has rotated down to the mid as well. Keanu Nakoa going to try and get himself to the safety of this turret, but he can't quite get there in time.
Yeah, and he got spotted out early there, Tasty. Before he could get into the bush, he couldn't get the engage on. Cruel does not like running from a fight, that's for sure.
Yeah, not at all. He wants to start from that brush, get that hero perk, but nice damage going down into Esquire and Aristocratic, but they're looking to get damage onto this turret. Aeon taking up a couple turret shots. They will have to back away as they lose their minions there. But now again, Salty Potatoes, they're going to look to try and take away this Crystal Treant. They've had theirs stolen away multiple times, but it's going to be a skirmish for it. It does end up going over to the side of Rising Lotus. So Lotus has done a really good job of keeping those buffs on their side.
Yeah, and that's what we've seen. All of the early game aggression was around those buffs, trying to make sure that you could secure those quickly. A lot of attention to that. Kiona going to be able to get that weapon buff. That was a close 2v1 actually. Surprised he got away with it.
He just kind of walked in and stole it with a quick little a basic attack, really just stealing it away. You know, the empowered basic attack from the brush does do a little bit of extra damage, and Joker and Sneaky were not able to secure that objective, but they will finally get themselves a Crystal Orb, although it was very nearly stolen away by that Solar Storm coming through.
Yeah, that was very close. Great job. I love just how, like, you see some of Salty Potatoes, they'll move into positions to get some of that ambient gold and experience. You still share that golden experience, so trying to just keep your team in close proximity can be a strategy we can see teams utilize to maximize their gold payout.
Now with the rotation back to the mid lane, you see a lot of members from both teams going to be in this area. There's a rotation coming down from the top, but it's going to get spotted by Keanu.
Sneaky gets out, though.
Sneaky does get out. Now Keanu, he's going to be trying to just stay in this fight as long as he can. It's going to be a big healing going down. Keanu's going low. A great gauntlet's going to come down, and that's going to be a couple of kills, one going either way. As the fight continues, Joker using the ultimate, looking to take out Tenacian. He does get that kill. Solicitude is going to be still very healthy, though, and throwing out damage with those Helios. Joker going low, but they can't quite find the kill. Advantage once again to Salty Potatoes when it comes to the team fight.
Yeah, great job keeping that fight. A lot of damage came out early on from Salty, and you started to see it kind of turn. Great gauntlet to kind of break up the fight, but they stayed together. Oh, Joker.
Solicitude wanted to get that kill with the ultimate, didn't quite find it, and now they could be in trouble. Krax is going to go very low. Nice from Hell's Heart onto Esquire. He's going to get this Celeste low. Can't use that active camo just yet. He's going to get out safely, though. Here comes the Reza, but he's on his own in the middle of the enemy team. And that's not where you want to be. One shot will get blocked by Keanu Nakoa, and that's going to be one kill going to Rising Lotus. And everything should be, you know, calming down a little bit, and Rising Lotus should be able to actually look for maybe get some objective control, get these minion waves under control as you see top lane very far pushed up in favor of Salty Potatoes.
Yeah, and the objectives right now in favor of Salty Potatoes is so one-sided. You know, 9-6. They have not lost a single turret. Rising Lotus needs to find some kind of traction here. In these fights, you kind of see it go both ways. Like, it's starting to even out a little bit, but the gold lead by itself is going to be a big factor when we see these 5v5 matchups if they do go full team fights here into the mid-game.
Yeah, and again, we're going to have to keep our eye on Solicitude. That's the key for this Rising Lotus side is, can the Celeste stay safe? Can she continuously output damage while keeping herself safe? That's going to be the difficulty for them. And thus far, Salty Potatoes have done a really good job of, they haven't gotten the kills on the Solicitude, but they've effectively taken the Celeste out of these fights, and it has allowed them to find kills onto other targets instead. Nomad Vagabond, he's going to be low as this Ghost Wing goes down very low as well. Solar Storm's not going to steal it away, and that will be the Ghost Wing to the side of Salty Potatoes, and now they're looking for fights. They find a kill. They do lose out on a turret, but they're going to be looking for blood as it's Solicitude and Nomad Vagabond both low, but then they say, you know what, Keanu Nakoa, he's in the middle of our team. We'll take what we can get, and then continue chasing. Solicitude going to get caught by the Alpha. Kestrel will find that kill. Nomad Vagabond still trying to run away as this Arden, and looks like they're going to let him go eventually because, you know what? It's not worth chasing that kill through the jungle when you can go and look for turrets.
Yeah, this is a big surprise. Salty Potatoes, with no turrets down prior to that Ghost Wing attack, you know, they really should have had control over Ghost Wing location. They knew it was on the map. They didn't. They gave it up to Rising Lotus. Rising Lotus now, you're starting to come back into this, able to take their first objective turret-wise.
Yeah, they did get that first objective, but it was actually Salty Potatoes that got the Ghost Wing, and now they're looking for more. A Gauntlet is going to come through. The Solar Storm goes right by the team fight. That is not what you want to see happen if you're the side of Rising Lotus. They do find one kill out of this, though. Esquire is going to be their next target, but they're starting to turn it around. That's going to be 2 quick kills found by Salty Potatoes. Sneaky, doing a lot of damage in this fight as well. It is a 2 for 2, but you see the health for the side of Rising Lotus not quite as healthy as the members of Salty Potatoes. So Salty Potatoes, they're going to try and stick around. See Esquire sneaking around the side, looking for a pick opportunity, but he's going to get found out.
Yeah, but the fights are starting to even up, Tasty, and that's what's important for Rising Lotus. The Celeste, I feel like her matchup later is going to be better than the Samuel. Typically later in the game, Samuel is very, very strong, does a lot of damage, but doesn't have the same kind of crowd control that Celeste brings out. The AoE that Celeste is going to have once she puts 3 points into her ultimate, that is where you start to see Rising Lotus find their comfort here.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that last fight. It was very much even, and that was with a Celeste ultimate completely whiffing. So if that ultimate is on point, if that ends up going through the entirety of Salty Potatoes, that could be a potentially very different team fight. Crack's still going to be on his own down in this bottom lane, and he's going to be paying for it pretty heavily. That's going to be a kill found eventually as they just chase him down. Joker and Esquire, they have been really just making life very difficult for this Catherine.
Absolutely. We got more action on the top as well.
That's
Tenacious.
Be a very short little portal, but it's just what they need to get the kill on to the Batiste. Now down bottom, looks like Esquire and Joker, they're looking for a turret, but they're getting a little bit of resistance there from the side of Rising Lotus, but not quite enough. The Joker might still end up going down here if Keanu Nakoa can get there in time, but he has to stop to get that heroic perk going. He doesn't have a lot of movement speed. He didn't prioritize upgrading his boots, which is very surprising for a Krull. Usually you want to get those boots upgraded as quickly as you can, but Keanu still on just tier 1 boots. Isn't going to be able to have that movement speed that he really needs to get involved, but I see a lot of damage getting dropped down. Solar Storm is going to just hit Esquire, and however, they've found some damage onto Aristocratic. Esquire trying to come back through the bottom, but he's not going to get there. That's a nice from Hell's Heart just to secure the kill. Ghost Wing is back up, so this looks like Rising Lotus may be trying to get this objective, but the 4 remaining members of Salty Potatoes are here. Samuel's going to be looking to do a lot of damage. Big blocks coming through, but it's not going to matter. Salty Potatoes find the kill onto the Celeste, and once Celeste is down, there's just no damage really remaining for the side of Rising Lotus. They have to try and get away from here.
Yeah, back it away. They're looking to be able to secure this Ghost Wing. Great job by Salty to kind of clear that out in the fight. You know, you don't need to commit to the objective. You just need to commit to getting the positioning you need kill-wise. 2 kills easy off the board. Push Rising Lotus back. Rising Lotus looked like they started to gain some leverage here, Tasty, but very quickly, Salty Potatoes have done a good job at just starting to reposition here in the jungle, making sure they don't give up that. And now they've got a nice mid-wave push looking to go through. This is an easy turret.
Yeah, absolutely easy turret, but now Aristocratic, he's going to be a target here. The rest of Rising Lotus is back up, but again, the priority for Salty Potatoes is that Celeste. If they can take Celeste out of the fight, they win the team fight. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's what we saw around that Ghost Wing. At the moment Celeste went down, Rising Lotus knew that they could not continue to try and fight that. They had to back away. So that's going to need to be the focus for both Salty Potatoes and for Rising Lotus, is focusing that Celeste. Right. They are making a very strong push. They saw an opportunity here with Rising Lotus going to the bot lane, all 5 members shoving this mid wave very, very hard. They're going to get into this armory turret and take that down, but now here comes Salty Potatoes. Can they get out is the question. A nice gauntlet is going to keep them at bay. But the fight is continuing. A big Oblivion is going to go through. Does get blocked for the most part. We're going to be having this fight continuing. They do get a kill onto the Alpha. And looks like Kroll will be going down as well. Lots of low health bars for the side of Rising Lotus. And Krax is just going to get out. Solicitude still very healthy. Did recall back because there was a push in the bottom lane being done by Salty Potatoes while all that was going on.
Yeah, that was a huge, huge fight for Salty to stop that engage, stop that push, and kick those 2 kills. Oh, they get a third. So this is not looking good for Rising Lotus because now they have an open lane on the bot. They're right into their crystal with no armory, and it looks like they are clear to take this Black Claw that we saw landing.
This could be a very risky take, though, because there is only 2 members currently working on it. They could potentially have a third here, but they're not going to take this super, super quickly. You see the respawn starting to come through. Members of Rising Lotus, they're approaching the Black Claw. It's only at about half health. There will be a steal attempt. Solar Storm goes on through a little bit early because they didn't have the vision, and it will be Black Claw unleashed by Salty Potatoes. If they can find another fight, this game will be over, Dragonborn. And Rising Lotus, they are on the back foot now without those big ultimates available. You see Gauntlet down, Blast Tremor down. The Solar Storm will be back up in just a few seconds, but without those other 2 big ultimates, this could be troubling.
So close. They burned so many ultimates.
Oh, look at what Salty Potatoes are doing. They're letting the Black Claw push on its own. They say, you know what? You have to answer either Black Claw or us. We're going to either take your Vein Crystal or you're going to lose some turrets. This is really smart play from Salty Potatoes, splitting their opponents, making them have to make a decision. And here we go. They're now rotating over to join Black Claw, take down those turrets. This could be a game-ending fight if Salty Potatoes win this one. It's very split up, very hectic, very chaotic. You see Aristocratic using the portals to come out. Keanu Nakoa is completely split from the rest of his team, but he's taken Aeon out of the fight. Meanwhile, in the base, Black Claw has gotten through that first armory turret. It is on to now the Vein Crystal. Actually should be on the armory, and he's a little bit of a visual issue there with the Black Claw, but he's working on the armory. There is going to be this fight continuing on the bottom. It is all over the place, Dragonborn. They get the armory down. Black Claw will now be the target for Rising Lotus. They have defended this push for now, but their base is ruined.
Oh my goodness. I mean, when you have that open lane, you could do that. You can split push with the Black Claw, and that's exactly what Salty Potatoes did there. Rising Lotus had no recourse. If anything, I think they got out of this in the best circumstances they could. They weren't able to secure kills because Salty Potatoes did a great job of just dispersing once that Black Claw had pushed into that armory, and they were able just to kind of keep all members of Rising Lotus kind of running all over the place, trying to chase down kills. Really just bought them time.
Yeah, I mean, you say that they came out of this in one of the best case scenarios. The other option was that they lost the game.
Exactly.
So if you're still in the game, you still have a chance. But it was actually, I want to emphasize what Keanu Nakoa did there. You know, I said he got split away from the rest of the team, but he kept 2 members of Salty Potatoes preoccupied that entire time. So a great job by Keanu there, just surviving. Now with Ghostwing up, looks like we're going to have another fight. That's a heavy engagement. They've taken down Celeste right off the bat. Salty Potatoes, this is a nightmare for Rising Lotus now. With just Celeste down, I don't think they're going to care about the rest of the members. They're just going to go in and likely look to finish this game. If they find another kill or 2, that'd be great, but that would just be gravy at this point. They are going in onto this base. Rising Lotus is going to do what they can to try and defend this, but it is just not going to work out. They find a kill onto Keanu Nakoa. They're continuing to just look for these kills, finally starting to get the damage onto the Vein Crystal, and this will be the 3rd and final game of Europe. This one will be Salty Potatoes taking the victory, spoiling the return of Rising Lotus.
Really clean game from Salty Potatoes. They're just absolutely coming in dominating. What a fantastic match.
Yeah, absolutely great job by Salty Potatoes, recognizing your opponent's win condition and playing to counter that win condition. They focused on that Celeste so hard in the late game, and every single time they took her out, whether it was a kill or just moving her away from the team fight, they just easily cleaned up afterwards.
I hate to say it again, but that was brutal. That was Salty Potatoes beating Rising Lotus. Flash, what was the pivotal moment of the game there?
It has got to be the team fight where they were able to split push the very first armory. I don't even think Rising Lotus knew what was going on. They were taking a team fight on a completely different part of the map, pushing down the mid lane, and Salty Potatoes actually does a great job responding. They send 4 back to defend, which is completely fine, but they leave Esquire on that Kestrel there to finish off the armory. And once you have an armory taken, it becomes very hard to manage the entirety of the map awareness in the map control. It's happening off screen on the mini map. Kestrel in that bottom lane, taking down that armory, and that's really setting the first piece of the puzzle to be able to go through and execute through the entire rest of the game.
Yeah, it was really, really smart. Like you said, just sending only 4 people back, it becomes very deceptive because when you're watching the minimap, you see all those recalls start coming through, and then you realize once the fight is on, you can't really be focusing on what else is going on over there. So all of a sudden, you're like, oh, we just got completely outplayed there. Exactly.
Taking a look back at some of the results for today, we did have Queso actually losing the game despite the fact of how strong of a roster they had. Clash coming out on top. Pretty exciting stuff there for today.
And I was actually really impressed with Wolves Esports as well. Even though they were defeated by Equinox, Equinox putting on a phenomenal showing too. And that was the most unknown team for us, was Equinox. That was the team where, when we looked at it, we didn't, you don't recognize as many of the names on Equinox as anyone else. And they put up a great showing against Wolves there.
They absolutely did. And that is going to do it for us for today's EU coverage of the Vainglory Premier League Preseason Invitational. Don't forget that we have the North American matches at 12 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you so much for joining us. Tasty Flash, thank you for your wisdom. And guys, we will see you soon.
Hundor will be the first to fall. Carol goes down as well on the other side. Tyra's still somehow alive, will eventually get dropped. It is now a 4-on-2, and Clash are cleaning up. They're in the top lane. Pomodoro, the only one left, is getting, or Blacklaw's getting very low. Varia Ultimate's gonna come down, gets a lot of damage. There's the Solar Storm. Great Pony Ultimate will split the team, but the Blacklaw was captured. Now the fight is on. Vikings already got himself 1 kill. He's got himself 2. Doesn't get the 3rd. It goes over to his teammates, but they're gonna be getting 2.